100% go compliant development, but if you're going to compliant development, expect to compromise something. G'day guys, welcome to the MTDC Lounge. This is a podcast that breaks down everything you need to know about designing and building your ultimate home and what to expect. Whether you're a DIY renovator, a budding developer, or everything in between, we'll dive into the building journey, touching on what to expect, what's next, and how to go about it. We'll hear from a heap of experienced consultants and trades about all aspects. So let's get stuck in. Welcome to the lounge. G'day guys, and welcome to another episode of the MTDC Lounge. We've got Mitch on the table again. How are you, mate?
Yeah, good. Going well.
That's the way. Mate, tonight we're actually doing a bit of an ep to talk about a bit of a win, actually. We bang on about how hard it is to design on slopey blocks and all the bits and pieces and things to watch out for. But something that we haven't really touched on and something that we do find that we're dealing with a lot now are the small blocks. And I think it's really important to bring up to the guys that are listening at home and talk them through, I guess, the design and the things that we kind of came up with and things that people should be watching out for as they go through a process, particularly working on a small block. Even more importantly, designing on a corner block that is also small, because they all come with their own rules.
Yeah. I remember doing this one because there were, especially around the council space, because we knew that when we were putting the application into council, there were a few things that we were I guess needing to justify to council because there were a fair few variations. It was a corner block, the side setbacks we were encouraging on, the rear setback we were encouraging on as well. I think it just goes to show that you've always got to have, to a degree, a bit of an open mind when you're going into council applications with some things we're varying. I mean, in this case, it worked out for the better. I don't believe we actually compromised with the design at all. Our council came back with a few questions and we had to do a bit of a street survey to say, for these reasons, this is why we believe that these encroachments are still suitable for the space. A few extra bits and details, documentation-wise or report-wise. But yeah, we ended up getting the result that we ultimately submitted with in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I guess what saved this was the fact that we had a good argument as to why we wanted the designs like this. And I know. So the standard rules that we bang on about every day is, the 3 meter setback rule. If there's a secondary side setback, that's bigger than a normal side setback. Your front setback was another, contributing part of this job as well. And yes, you're right, 100%. They did bounce back. They did come back and say, hey, we need to do some adjustments, particularly with the deck out the back. We weren't allowed to put the deck all the way back to the fence, which is fair enough. We had to bring it off a little bit. But I think one of our biggest issues was our front setback and what we wanted to do to the front setback. We bang on about side setbacks and the rear setbacks all the time. But what we don't talk about is that these setbacks, it doesn't matter how big the block is, until you get over a certain width at the boundary line, are all the same. So you can have a super duper small block, but you still have to worry about your front setback, which is your boundary to your building line, which is standard 4.5 meters if you don't have any neighbors. Your rear setback, which we all know is 3, and then we've got your normal side setbacks, which are 900 mil. But in some councils, they do change, especially for the side setback. You've got a 2.5 to 2 meter setback.
Yeah, and that's basically we knew we were going to be up against those constraints when we lodged the application. And I guess this is probably a prime example of context and seeing what you're trying to do, but also why you're trying to do it and what limitations you've got to work with as well. For this one, we put it in through council. Council come back with a request for information. They were seeking, they were querying whether our front setback was why we were exceeding the front setback, and they wanted either the front deck and portion to be removed or further justified. Actually, they were just asking for it to be removed.
They were. They just said, no way, it's not going to happen. And we actually had to kind of fight, didn't we? well, you wrote a massive report about, you know, why and all the things like that. And actually, as a matter of fact, this is probably one of those good jobs where they saw a little bit of common sense in this particular job and allowed precedent argument.
Yeah, 100%. So in this case, we were going further forward than what council, what their DCP restrictions would allow. So I guess they either said, well, at first they said, look, we're not happy with this. And we went back and said, okay, we understand that these are the restrictions and, you know, there's a reason why those restrictions are in place. But however, in this particular instance, we relied on the neighbouring setbacks of the buildings around it. But also, well, the entire street, it also came into it, the degree of landscaping out the front that was being kept as well. Like that was a really big...
That was a huge one.
That was a big big item that we were sort of leaning on as well. But I think what really got this one across the line in terms of trying to get the justification, it was a combination of using context and the surrounds, but also we end up showing council from a street view what the before and after view would be like viewed from the street, showing the existing vegetation and really standing from the street looking at the property, you wouldn't be able to see too much of a difference, which really showed council that the impact of the encroachment wasn't really impactful.
And I mean that having a whole new build that got approved even closer to the road than what we were proposing, literally a month or two before we submitted ours, probably helped our situation.
Well, that's right. We actually we went digging on council's DA tracker to go, okay, this is the street, these are the areas that we're sort of contextually close to. What other applications have been approved of recent? And because all of that's available online, so
it's a really good op. Like particularly if someone's doing design and they know or they've seen somebody build something just down the road, it's always contextual. It's always you know, is it happening in the same street? Can you find the same results somewhere in this street that would back your argument? And it just so happened that this guy had the next door neighbor breaching all of the rules that we wanted to. So it was quite serendipitous that we just went, hey, this is really cool. Yeah, this is what we want to do.
I mean, I'd say like my first, and this is exactly how I looked at this as well. When I seen the council pushing back, I said the first thing that we did was basically, well, from the office, went for a walk on Google Maps up and down the street to go, what are the other areas like in the area, the houses in the area, which ones have gone close to the boundary, almost on the front boundary as well. And then the next thing is to go, okay, which ones look newish or look like they would have been approved by council, you know, in the last 10 years, as a bit of a guide. But because then we have the address, we have the approvals, and we're really pointing out to council that look, we're not really breaching, we're not doing anything too crazy here. It fits within the context. You approved similar works in the past for similar reasons. It's really you're just building a case, and sometimes council are just asking for justification as well, like for themselves to go, right, we know you want to do this, but we're going to need more to support it, and that's I guess what we did in this case.
Yeah, we pretty much presented them a case. It was a bit of an old rundown house, you know, had the primrose yellow. It was, you know, in terms of the argument of the street appeal, it was an easy answer. It was we're bringing it into date. We're not making a big massive mansion. We're staying pretty consistent with the surrounding areas. You know, we're making the garage look nice. As a matter of fact, we're bringing the garage off the side boundary a little bit more, so we're making that a little bit neater. We did concede, you know, a setback to the rear boundary because we can't build to the rear boundary, and we understand that. But I think with this particular job, I think you know, the clients asked for something. We got as close as humanly possible to what they wanted. I think you know, as a job whole, I think it was a great job. I think it was fantastic. I do like. I mean, it's not all sunshines and rainbows. So let's have a chat about, you know, kind of what was the problem. And I think some of the things here that particularly happened with this client were some of the extra costs that even we didn't foresee. So we did the report. we hit up the planner to make sure that we can get this job through, and there was a little bit of back and forth and a lot of bouncing around with the report writing. So that's where you stepped in and helped a little bit.
Yeah, 100%. Like and like it's warranted. Like in the end, like that extra level of documentation did get the job through. It's just sometimes it's up to council too. Like if they come back and ask for a certain extra level of information, sometimes for valid reasons, sometimes it's a
kick the can down the road.
Yeah, well, it feels like that anyway sometimes. But yeah, I mean, ultimately, council are asking for justification or extra reports. Then I guess our job is to obtain that information where we can, trying to mitigate the cost or the unforeseen things like this that will pop up. But yeah, 100%. And I think that was in the end almost the tricky part about the project. Wasn't so much council asking for these bits and pieces of information. We knew that as soon as we had that request for information, we knew, okay, these are the things that we can fight. This is how we're going to get through this. But the next part was, okay, what are these extra reports and things going to cost in this instance? And it is very project specific as well, and it really depends on what council are looking for in particular.
The consultants we go for.
Exactly. Yeah.
And how much those consultants want to be. Like sometimes when they get a report, they'll pay you pay for this big report and it tells pretty much everything that you need to tell it, except for that one bit of information the council want to know. And then they go, well, hang on a minute, I need to know this. And then you got to get the report rewritten and you got to do a whole bunch of other stuff to try and make it fit. So yeah, as a whole, super great job. Clients were absolutely amazing. Loved doing the job. It was one of those ones where you and I got to have a little bit of a back and forth and a bit of banter. You tell me no, I say yes. We meet in the middle.
We get it through.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. So I was really stoked with this job, and I think the team did a great job.
Yeah. No, it looks fantastic.
Going through the DA route or the development application route, the thing that we've got to remember is that DCP is a guideline. It's not the rule. It gives us an element of, we can do this, and there's a variance that we can work within, which is usually about 10%, particularly with jobs like this. If you're going to go with CDC route or the complaint development route, you have to strictly stick by these rules. And because I went and saw these clients, I actually saw these clients during COVID, and I actually talked to them through the window in their backyard, and I didn't even have to go around the place to know that there was no way it's going to go through compliant development. The rear building line was actually within 3 meters of the rear setback, so there was no way that they were going to go through compliant development, so it was always going to be the DA route. Actually, do you know what I find that would be the most trickiest part of the smallest block? Is if it's a mine subsidence area, particularly for Newcastle and Lake Max space. If it's a mine subsidence space, and let's call it a high mine subsidence space, you've got to do strip footings, and then you've got to do strip footings, and they've got to spread out. I think it's up to 5 meters. You're not going to find 5 meters in a block that's this small. Then they're things that you really have to start to worry about and stress about, particularly those things that you have to pay attention to.
Yeah. It comes a lot down to the engineer in that one to see what they actually need to get the mines together. But yeah, like you're right. The smaller blocks and the challenges with them, it usually means that you're ruling out CDC quicker, and usually it's because of these things that you would like to vary going through as a development application. Like for this job, for instance, if we were, we couldn't because the existing was already further, but say that we had a little bit of give, the difference could have been having the garage, 3 meters wide compared to having a 5 meters wide because the secondary setback was a lot more strict, or bringing the house back to in this case, say a meter off the boundary compared to 3 meters if we had to go through complying development. So I think the first thing is that a very tight block, CDC rules still apply. So your 3 meter side rear setback, 3 meter rear setback, your 2 meter secondary side setback. Just gives you a smaller envelope that you're starting to work with.
There's no room for breaching. Like
well, that's right.
There's no room for rule breaking, and particularly with small blocks. Like you touched on it, the floor space ratio. Like how much grass area compared to the built area is such a commodity between these small blocks and large blocks that you just won't get it. Like you won't get it. I think complying development sitting at, I think it's like 50% of the landscaped area has to be in the backyard. There was no way we were going to get that.
I think like we talk a lot about the pros and cons of CDC versus DA, and a lot of that there is the conception that that CDC is the preferred route because it is cheaper, it is quicker, and whilst those things are true for certain sites and certain situations, going through council under a DA would actually give you a better result.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're able to play around with the rules a little bit more, or even the rules are that different from a CDC to a DA that the design is vastly different. So there are benefits of going through council route for sure. You're allowed to take in the context of what you're doing.
One of the biggest things I say to our clients is, what are you willing to compromise? Like if you're going to 100% go compliant development, but if you're going compliant development, expect to compromise something. Whereas DA, you've got a little bit of stretch, you've got a little bit of bend, you can argue something. Whereas CDC is a hard no.
Yep.
At the moment. Well, mate, as always, thanks so much for having a chat about these ones. I'd be lost without you in the office. So, mate, every day I come to work knowing that we're always going to be able to bounce these ideas off and get a good result for the client, which helps us in such a massive way. There you go, guys. Be sure to have a listen, like, follow, subscribe, do what you need to do. If you've got a small block, if it's corner block, if it's anything tricky, make sure you speak to the guys that know what to talk about. We'll see you on the next ep. Thanks for listening to this week's ep of The Lounge. To make sure you don't miss out on the next episode, hit subscribe. We'd love to get the message out to more homeowners like you. Make sure you leave a rating and a review, and we'll see you on the next ep.